So that's how I see it. Like there will be people that will also tell you like, no, you actually have to do like a little bit of everything and show that you are, like capable of like doing everything, so they can hire you for whatever. It didn't happen. It didn't happen to me that way. I did what I wanted to do. I've never pushed myself into. I never forced myself into putting something on my portfolio that I didn't want to show. And they have just hired me for that. So I cannot really give I cannot give like an objective opinion about it, because the way it happened to me was just like that. So
please welcome concept artist Pablo Carpio to this episode of the Learn Squared podcast, and our first of 2026. Pablo drops by and reveals the highs and lows of his career that began 10 years ago, with some very profound insights and learnings he has gathered along that journey. So let's get to it and hear from Pablo himself on what it was like working with some of the biggest clients in the industry, the power of friendship and connecting with fellow artists, to his creative obsessions, and more. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Learn Squared podcast, and I'd like to welcome on the amazing Pablo Carpio for our first guest of 2026. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure for me as well. I'm so excited to have you on. And I remember reaching out to you last year when I said, let's do this. I was surprised I hadn't reached out to you much earlier. Big fan of your work and always kept an eye on what you do. But yeah, for the listeners who maybe are completely new to this and never heard of anything about this or yourself or what we do, if you wouldn't mind just giving everybody a quick introduction to yourself, please.
Sure. Well, I'm a concept artist from Spain. I've been working in the video game and film industry for the last 10 years. Actually, this year marks 10 years since I had my first, not credit, but my first job in film, which was Aladdin back in the days.
Oh, wow.
The Will Smith one.
So 10 years ago.
It's been 10 years since we did the pre-production for that. So it was Aladdin, X-Men Dark Phoenix, and Minecraft, actually. The one that came out last year. We were already working on that like 10 years ago.
No way.
And and I've been working as a concept artist, as I said, for 10 years now. I've been working for some other companies like Pixar, Marvel Studios, Industrial Light and Magic, just a few of them. Mostly freelancing. Working from home.
Amazing. So 10 years ago, if you can put yourself back at that point, did you... Obviously, it's hard to always predict the future and what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen right around the corner, for example. But did you kind of like foresee the career and the clients that you've had? Like, did you kind of see that on the horizon?
Honestly, for me, I always say the same. I think I was very lucky at the beginning of my career with the opportunities that I had, because I had a chance during the first years to actually get like some really good credits that I could put on my CV, right? I mean, as soon as I could say that I work for MPC, which was the first company that, trust on me and actually gave me a job. As soon as I could say I worked on MPC, then I had the chance to work with a production designer that knew people at MPC, and then I got my credit on Pixar, and then thanks to that I get to other things, at the same time. In between, I was working with Marvel Studios. So as soon as I got like 3 names like those, as soon as I could put on my CV, I work on Marvel Studios, Pixar, and ILM, for example, then everything starts happening faster. Yes. But I always say I was really lucky, because every job is pretty much the same, but in the end, just having that little credit already in front of other clients gives you some more like credibility in some sort of way. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it was. I never expected it to be that way, but
right.
Yeah, I think it just aligned, like the planets align in some sort of way.
Fair enough.
That allowed me to have a good start of my career in that aspect.
I think that's something that many people have said, and also just like not in our industry, just in life in general. Like there's certain scenarios or situations where that obviously you can put yourself in that position, but I guess it's like the worms in Dune, right? Like you can have your hooks, you can get ready, but you don't know when you throw that in there if you're going to stay on there, you get thrown off, kind of thing. And I guess that's the kind of position you got to put yourself in. Like you got to be ready when those opportunities come. Because I guess there's also some people, and I can talk from my own experience, where maybe you don't make the most of those opportunities as well, even though they do come that way. But at that point in time, when you had all that work in that first year, how did you feel? Like, was it a sense of pride? Was it a sense of intimidation? Or was it excitement? Like, do you remember what the feeling was like?
When I got the jobs already, you mean right after that happened,
Correct, yeah,
or right before?
I guess both. Yeah, let's talk about both.
So I think at some point when I started figuring out that I wanted to work in this industry, I never thought I would go that far. But right. As any other artist, I was just enjoying what I was doing. I was not really thinking about the consequences, either good or bad. I was not really thinking about the future. I was just in front of my computer, building my portfolio and enjoying the time doing it. I also had the opportunity to have supportive parents that were economically supporting me. So during a full year, I had a chance to just stay at home and work on my art, and that was key, because I didn't really have to be afraid of or worry about like having to pay bills during that time. So my situation, and I always say that because it can sound like a very like a great story. I'm very like everything went like super smooth and super perfect, but it all comes from the fact that I actually had the opportunity to just focus on that. So right. I guess I understand that it can be like way more difficult for some other people in some other scenarios, right? But for me, honestly, just going back to the topic, it was when it started happening, when I started like posting my work online, and it took me like 2-3 years to actually start, getting calls from companies. I remember like sending my portfolio and contacting people through LinkedIn and not getting any answer for more than 40 or 100 times. But then at some point it happened. I just got this call from MPC to work on these projects that I told you about, and I was not ready at all. Like I thought I was, I thought my level was enough. You know what I mean? Like in the end, the way for me, and I talk about this with other friends, the best way to measure if you are ready to get a job or not is just opening an art book from one of the movies that you like, or one of the companies that you would like to work on. Just open an art book, see the level of the artwork that is there, and if you think that you can like objectively match that level, then you can consider yourself ready to show that portfolio and being like, hey, I'm not only asking for feedback, I'm asking for a job, right? So when it happened to me and I actually got a job, I saw myself in that situation and I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, I'm just going to do it as like the best I can. And if I don't hit the level, well, that's what it is. They will probably just not call me back anymore, right? Yeah. That is not anything. I was pretty calm at that point. I was really excited, like in a good way. But yeah, it was never something like oh my God, like losing control or being stressed about it. It was more like, okay, I need to do this. I need to be ready. I was feeling like a soccer player just about to get into the stadium, and start the game. Yes. So it was more motivation than fear. But at the same time, I think, there is always like a little bit of that on the back of your head being like, you need to hit the mark, but yeah, but it was fine. And then I think it also plays an important role the fact that I was way younger and I had way more energy, so I could stay up until super late. I remember like getting feedback since I was in Spain and my art directors were in LA, so I was sometimes getting feedback like at 2 a.m, and I will just wake up and do the feedback, and my bosses will be like, why are you doing, like, why are you still up, like you can do this tomorrow. But I was like, no, I have to do it now, I have to do it. So it was all about the job. My life at that point was like 100% just about getting a job and working in industry. So
wow. Can you do late nights now, or
no.
at least the same as before?
I mean,
when did that end?
When did that
design
end?
Or did it kind of like force you to end it?
I actually had a breakdown once. I remember one night that I end up having like temperature and trembling like at home, and I couldn't do, like, I got sick like in a second, like I had to go to bed and I was having like a panic attack kind of thing. It was awful, and it came from probably just working, more than like 10-12 hours a day for like a long while, like waking up at 5:30 in the morning, started working, and then finishing like at 10 in the evening, 10 p.m, something like that, just like stopping for lunch, and that's pretty much it. Not doing any exercise, not going out, and at some point it just, I think
that's one consistent thing for everything.
But
in general, like it's always going to do it.
Yeah, I don't really do it anymore. I managed to, I found a balance in my life, and I understood that there are way more important things, So now it's just a job, and I try to stick it to 8 hours a day, and I try to not do more than that. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
And would you say your situation with balance, like, are things balanced? And even if they do become imbalanced, like, kind of know how to get it back to being balanced?
Yeah, I think so. I have a pretty strict routine. I also try to not procrastinate too much, like it sometimes is difficult, but my routine is, as I say, is pretty mathematical. I wake up at the same time. I go for a walk early in the morning. Like I wake up like at 7 a.m, go for a walk with my dog. I'm back home like at 7:45, more or less. Get ready to go to the gym. I go to the gym at 8:15, go back home at 9:15, take a shower. 9:30, I'm sitting on my desk and I'm starting my day, and I start working until like 2 p.m. Because we're Spanish, so we have lunch pretty late. So I have lunch like at 2 p.m. or something like that, and then I just continue my day. I still work for like a few hours, and then around 7, I'm pretty much done with work. 6, 7, more or less, I'm done with work. And then it's just like either free time or I start like working on some feedback to catch up with work for the day after, but that's pretty much it, apart from that, I take breaks here and there just to go for a little walk with my dog for like 10-15 minutes, a couple of times during the morning, like maybe at 12, and then again like at 3 p.m, and then we have another long walk at night. But that's pretty much my life during the week, right? So I know that around 7, 8, or 8, it's over in terms of like work, and then it's just either like prepare dinner, watch a movie, or play some video games with my friends, or whatever it is, and then go to bed. Again, like at 11 or 12, and then I procrastinate. I just stay in bed watching reels. That's a bit what I do.
That sounds like heaven. Like the whole kind of setup. It sounds like a nice setup. Do you find that, let's say, for example, the morning, like my mornings, not the same, but kind of the same. Like there's many things that have to happen before I can just sit down and do work. And then I have this situation where I kind of know when it's kind of going to be a good day because of how the morning went. Like all those things that need to get done.
Oh, yeah,
and sometimes when they're not done, you're like, oh, fuck. And then there's like, it's a disaster afterwards. So if that morning routine gets disrupted in any way, shape or form, does it throw you off, or are you able to adapt if things don't go to plan?
Sometimes yes. If I have like a medical appointment, or I have to go out, or something like that happens and makes me like lose like a couple of hours during the morning, then I have to catch up in the evening. Then I have to stay working until later,
Yeah.
But I never get in a situation where I'm like, oh, I miss having lunch. That's never gonna happen in my life.
Okay.
Never.
Nice.
Having lunch, doing exercise, and sleeping are three things that I don't negotiate, no matter what happens.
Excellent.
No matter what happens. So when there is people that is like, yeah, I didn't have lunch today because I've been just doing other things and I forgot. I was focused on work. Like, no, I stop and I have lunch no matter what.
Nice.
And same with sleeping. I have to sleep at least 6 hours. I'm not even saying 8 hours, but at least 6. Like if I know that the day after I have to wake up at 7 in the morning, I will probably never stay later than 1 in the morning, 1 at night. So yeah, those are things that I don't negotiate. I always, and same with exercise. I always go to the gym. It has to be like a meteorite or something hitting Earth to me to miss the gym, or to miss like having lunch or something like that, Yeah.
And usually, like, I guess with those things, and I've definitely been on that side of things where you kind of skip things that should be part of your routine because either you got to finish a deadline, or you just got to get stuff done, or things are falling behind, or like you said, sometimes just want to be like, no, I have to kind of do this, so I'll just commit that time towards that. Sometimes it's out of fear as well, I guess, for many people, where they think like, if I don't, like, I have to sacrifice everything else except this thing. But like you said there, like, these are the non-negotiables, right? And these are things that you will not change. Like, you have to do those things. I guess my point is more like to those people who do feel like they have to kind of like ruin their schedule just to complete a task, or maybe for work, for example. Have you found any scenarios where by being so strict with like your non-negotiables, for example, that it does detriment anything to do with work side, or is there never a consequence with work?
No, I mean, of course. I mean, I'm just exaggerating. Of course,
Sure.
that's all, like there are moments where if we have going through some crunch time at work and we really need to deliver something, or something needs to be done, of course I stop doing whatever I'm doing and I just finish work. It's like, but I always try, even if I have to like eat something quickly at my desk, or doing something like that, I will always do it. With work, it's kind of the same. I mean, the thing is that I already measured how much work I can do during the day, and I make sure that my client understands how much time I can work. So I never take too much work, like work that I cannot afford, because then I don't want to see myself in the situation of having to tell my client like, hey, I didn't make it on time because, I cannot deliver because I didn't manage my time properly. So like through the years, I've already understood, like I learned like how much work I can afford doing to make sure that I never see myself in that situation. There might be like particular days, like maybe 1 or 2 days here and there, that I see myself in a situation that, my boss is like, hey, we need to get this done like in a couple of hours. Can you do that extra 2 hours? And then I'm like, all right, yeah. And I had planned maybe to go to the gym or something, but I'm like, okay, I'm skipping it today and then just finish this, or I will just go on the weekend or whatever, But that's the thing, I think with time, I just learned how to just, have everything kind of like a little bit under control. I don't like to have, I like planning a lot, so I don't like leaving things to, we'll see. Like I will wake up, and when I wake up, I'll see like until what time I work, and then, I'll grab some food whenever no, for me it's like, this time, like, this happened at this time, this happens at this time, and it's always like that.
Amazing. You mentioned obviously before, in the younger days. I remember those days too when, yeah, like, having 1 or 2 hours of sleep was normal. Like that was enough almost and it was fine.
Yeah.
But on those days, I could tell many tales with that and I won't waste anyone's time by mentioning those, but there's a different reason why people do it. Sometimes it's a case of like, they maybe, like you said, like bite off more than they can chew. So they need to kind of double, triple the amount of time they spend just to complete that one task, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it could be a result of like procrastination and time just adds up. Sometimes it's a case of like you're addicted to it and you enjoy it so much. So you just spend more and more hours kind of just, pushing those pixels or just adding more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Going back in time, like what was the energy like for you when you were younger and you were working those long days?
Well, for me, honestly, I have to thank that a lot to my colleagues, to the people I was working with, like the other Pablo, which is also known, yes. Pablo Dominguez.
Yes,
we used to work together and live together, and we still get like projects together here and there, during those days with people like Pablo and some other friends, people that I met online and people that I met on events, we had a big community of people my age that were all like posting stuff on Instagram and on other platforms and kind of like challenging ourselves in a healthy way, but being like, oh, so this guy just posted a new picture, I need to do one myself too, and same with work. We always wanted to, when we were working together, we wanted to deliver the same quality, the same amount, and that during the first years, what really pushed me to get better was not only the passion and the like trying to get a job, but also like the motivation that I was getting and the inspiration that I was getting from the people that was around me doing the same,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
amazing. I mean, it's a bit like then, like you said with soccer players, like when you train with other players, either a better ability or similar ability, you're most likely going to have a good team, right? And you're going to build skills that you can't really do by yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
How valuable was that kind of like friendship, that camaraderie to you?
Oh, it was everything. It really pushed me. It really pushed me like to a point that I couldn't have done it like alone. I think that in this industry, having friends and having connections, it's one of the most important things. At the beginning for your motivation and to learn from your friends, and then at some point that will turn into your friends. Suggesting you for some roles, for some positions in other companies, or you hiring them. Like I had both situations. I had people recommending me to get jobs, and I also had the chance to hire some of my friends for some projects and then working with them, So that was great. So I think it's definitely one of the pillars of getting a good career is just being surrounded by people that how like you can share your passion with and they can do the same.
It's a bit of a, I guess, difficult question to answer because it's hard to really quantify this. But let's say you never had that experience and it was completely solo. What version of Pablo would we see now in that situation?
That's a difficult question because it's true that I value it a lot, but I'm also at the same time I'm a pretty autonomous person, and I spend a lot of time alone, and I like it, so it's not like it's a big problem for me. So I think it wouldn't be, it will probably not be that different, but definitely. More than, honestly, I'm not going to say like having friends is not important. It's like super important. But I think that at some point, like in terms of my career, it's not only friends, but also just, like basic networking, like colleagues. Like it's not like you have to build a super deep relationship with these people, but definitely knowing people and meeting people, it's absolutely necessary. I don't think I will be where I am right now without like just have been, if I was just at home painting and not doing anything else, not going out to events, not being online on social media, talking with other people, yeah. I think there is no way I could have like get the opportunities that I got in the past if I was just at home painting. I'm absolutely just painting.
And I completely agree with you 1,000,000%, especially like just that connection, speaking with people, whether it's on a commercial side of things or not. Like the power of it is you can't buy it and you can't sell it. You can't manufacture it. Like you have to experience it and do it. And apart from my, like, again, non-creative friends, other friends that I know that work in, I guess, like, quote-unquote regular jobs, regular setups, offices and stuff, they don't have the kind of stuff that we have in our industry with the events and the way you, like, it's almost like it's never super formal, so it's always casual, but everyone's passionate, they love what they do, and even though it's kind of work, the passion overrides the boring side of work, and everyone's just a geek and they love it and they want to talk about this stuff. And I think that's one of the best things about this kind of industry. But to kind of like put you on the spot a little bit, you don't have to answer this if it gets you in trouble. You said you worked with friends and stuff. What are the positives and negatives of working with friends, if any?
No, there are positives and negatives, of course. I think that let's start with the negatives, actually.
Okay.
The negatives of working with friends is that depending on your position, it can be hard to get or receive feedback sometimes, because having a more flexible relationship with someone can, if you ask someone to change something, they can be like, come on, dude, it doesn't look that bad. I'm going to leave it as it is. And you're like, no, I'm asking you to change it, or the opposite, so those kind of things, can be like, you always need to kind of like separate the professional side to the friendship, because you really need to get your work done as your boss tells you. No matter if your boss is your friend in the end, right? I think that's something you need to leave, from after work, Apart from that, it is important that the relationships don't turn toxic in the way of like you pushing yourself to a limit, that you're challenging your friend just to be better than him. Like you always have to get inspired into, being better at your work and do better artworks and everything, but never compare yourself to your friends or be jealous of their level or be, like there is no point in doing that. I think that's never gonna bring you to any good place. No. So that could be like the bad things, but I think you can, of course, like control them and make sure that they don't happen. And then the good things, as I said, like the motivation, the passion, like knowing that you can write someone if you need some help with some work, being like, hey dude, like, can you send me this asset? Like I've seen that you have been working on this, like the boss is asking me for this other stuff, can you maybe check it for a second and help me with it or whatever, so I think those type of things are super, super cool to have, and as I said, like the motivation that gives you, the fact that, you have someone by your side working with you and, and getting inspired with his awesome work. I think that's great.
How much do you love art and what you do?
How much do I love what I do?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a very deep question for me. I have a very bad reputation talking about this.
Let's go. We got time.
because I honestly, with the pass of time, I'm seeing this more as just a job, and I know it sounds super discouraging for a lot of people. But as I said, like, I remember having this breakdown. I remember like going through a very stressful moment of my life, that I was flooded with work and not really happy with it, and at some point I started like learning that there are more important things, like, working is amazing, but not working can be amazing too, so if you get stuck in just working, sometimes you can lose track of what really matters, and for me right now, that's my family, that's my girlfriend, it's my dog, and my friends. So that's it. I also experienced a couple of loss during the last years, in terms of like friends, family members that pass away, and you start like getting a little bit this perspective. I'm feeling like, do I really need to be in front of my desk for like 12 hours? And also the fact that, not giving names about companies or anything, but sometimes that passion can turn against you and make you work for extra hours or not getting paid properly just because you love the project, and in the end you need to understand that it is just a project. It is just, you don't need to push yourself over limits just because you love the movie that came out 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and they're just doing a new version of it, so I think, and people tell me like, but come on, it's hard and you have to be passionate about it. It's like when people ask me like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or something like that, I always think like, you know what, I just see I like hopefully retired, and that doesn't mean I will stop painting. I want to keep painting. Sure. But for me, one thing is art, another thing is the industry, and I love the industry. I love movies. I love games, but I also understood that they are just another product. And what is important is that you are happy with the work that you do and that you can express yourself through art. Because if I could stop working today, if I had enough money, if I was a millionaire and I could stop working today, I'll probably still do digital art, because I love it. I honestly really have fun, like working on Blender and doing photo batch and everything. But I think I will also go back to oil painting and even sculpting, I used to do sculptures back in the days. I used to do marble sculptures when I was at university, and oil painting and everything. And I have some friends telling me like, nothing is stopping you to actually do that in your free time, right? Like you can do it. But the thing is that after being 8 hours just in front of my desk doing digital art, I don't really want to spend the rest of my day painting more, That's where my friends, my family, my girlfriend comes, and I want to be around them and just, socialize, go out, have some drinks with my friends, go out for a walk with my dog, do some exercise, Those are the kind of things I'm interested on. But if I had like a full free day to not do anything, then I would probably go and do other stuff, So that's the thing. I think, I love what I do, but at the same time, I'm also aware of other things that I love, and I don't let like a character from a movie or a video game project or whatever it is, like steal that from me, because I know they don't exist. Like sometimes we lose track of that. It's like, no, Star Wars never happened. It's just fantasy, so don't let it like control your life. You know what I mean? That's a bit how I see it.
Oh, that's really, like, from my perspective, inspiring to hear. I have similar thoughts to yourself and similar conclusions. I'm sure younger artists and everyone remembers when they're younger as well, although I'm slowly forgetting as older I get, like what happened 10 years ago. It's all like a nice big blur right now. But I remember the hype. I remember like just the constant need to kind of like just do it. Nothing else mattered, right? It's just that single tunnel vision, and that's great. That's a great energy. It's a great motivation to have. But just to your point as well, and some of it from my perspective was either life forcing it upon me, and also me coming to the realization that I intentionally wanted to just take a step back. But yeah, like just having that detachment and almost not like we use the term soccer, right? Like they play for 90 minutes. Some players can only be good for 60 minutes, even though they play the full 90, and some you get injured. So you kind of like have to stop. You can't play non-stop, right? And then they have to train and all that good stuff and prime themselves to deliver. And I think that's a very grown and mature way to kind of see things. And I think for some people it can mess them up. For some people it can really like breathe a bit of life into them almost, to realize that there's more to the canvas than the canvas itself.
Mm-hmm.
But then also there's kind of like that pull, like you said, I myself have like at college and school, it was all traditional. It's only when I left all of those things I discovered digital art, and then obviously here we are today. But even myself and other artists I've spoken to now, like there's almost another wave of like, did we really enjoy and explore all those traditional mediums that we had a chance to, and have we really like understood those things versus what this add-on could do in Blender, for example? And like yourself, I love the digital side, I love the expression it gives, but it's still only a certain slice, right? But then at the same time, like, yeah, like there's time, whether by design or by life or by choice, you get time away from your canvas and maybe you come back better or stronger. So for yourself, obviously like you're working all the time, but putting work to the side, if possible, what's the longest time you've been away from art or thinking about art or wanting to make art, if that makes sense?
Never.
Really?
I think when was the time that I've been more away from art? Honestly, nowadays I try to be like vacation. Like it's just vacation time. I don't do any art. Like I've never, only started doing it when I was starting, and when I still had like this passion and this of having, for example, like a sketchbook where I will just be like scribbling all day, or doing stuff. And I remember like going on vacation and bringing all my like pencils and all my traditional gear with me to continue drawing, But at some point I just stopped because of what we said, like because it turned more into a job. So now I try to stay away, like every time that I go on a trip or something. There is one thing that I'm enjoying doing more, that is taking pictures, like doing photographs. So I, even just with my phone, I like to find compositions, lights and colors that I like, and try to do like, some cinematic photographs. I don't even have like a proper camera. I just do it with my phone, but it's enough to, keep my mind working a little bit in that artistic way, but being away from art, I've never been disconnected from it absolutely fully, and I think I will never be, because in the end, I've been doing this since I was a little kid. Like I always enjoy drawing. I remember going with my parents to restaurants and all the kids will be playing, around, the tables, and I will just be on the table. My mom will always bring like a pencil and a paper on her purse, and she will just like pull out the paper and the purse of the purse, and I will just start like sketching on the table while the food was coming, so it's always been like that for me, and it still's like that. But when I'm on vacation, when it's Christmas, when it's like summer and I go out like to the beach for a week or something, I stop doing any art. Like I don't do art anymore. As I said, photographs, if we can, and of course we can consider that like a way of like artistic expression, right? So I do photograph, but I don't do anything else,
And with those that photography, like when you take them, is it almost reference gathering, or is it actually like the photography side of, I want to capture this moment, this shot, or this thing that I think needs to be captured?
Yeah, it's more about capturing the moment. It's like, oh, there is, I don't know, there is a couple in a bench and the light is hitting right behind them, and I capture that moment. Or I see a guy running and it's like, okay, let's see if I can get him in between those two cars that are passing at the same time, and I just wait for a second to take the picture, or if it's architecture or something, it's either the texturing or the light or whatever it is. But yeah, it's always about that. It's always about trying to get like the cool picture. And it's funny because every time, like when Pablo Dominguez and I, we do these trips together, and he does the same, and we end doing the same once again, and we just challenge ourselves to be like, oh, look at this picture that I took, oh, look what I found, like, and then we are on the bus back to the hotel, or in the or at the plane, and we're just going through our pictures and comparing them and being like, look at this one that I did, so yeah.
Are you guys very competitive?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have like a scoreboard? Who's winning the most?
Oh no, there is nothing like that. But we are competitive.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But always in a healthy way.
Oh, of course, of course. Now you could tell. Like, I didn't get a chance to speak to you when you did that presentation together at 101. But just even from the outside looking in, like it's cool to see, like almost like a duo, right? Like, you know, like a double act type thing. I don't mean that in a negative, like in a disrespectful way, but it's like it's cool to see. Like, you obviously there's people, we all have our friends, our kind of like groups and stuff, but yours is like very like obvious, right? And
Hmm.
how did you guys connect? Like, was it by accident or
It
did
was
you
by
just like, yeah?
Well, it was kind of by accident. So the thing is that I started working like a couple of years before Pablo did. He was still at university, and I went to give a talk. His university that happens to be mine before, like I graduated from that university and then I started working.
Nice.
And when I got my job at MPC, I went to give a talk at my university to the young artists that were still there, and Pablo was there. So he saw my talk, and then we started chatting on social media. And he told me that he was already working on El Ranchito, which is a Spanish VFX company,
Mm-hmm.
and they work on Game of Thrones, and they work on some other stuff. So when he told me that he was already working there, I don't do this with everyone, but I saw his potential and I told him just quit university,
Nice.
and
Nice.
he did. He ended quitting university. He continued working, and then he started like getting offers to start working in the industry. And then it happened to both of us that we got the same offer to work on Captain Marvel,
All right.
and we had to move to Barcelona. So we started talking. It's like, hey, are you moving to Barcelona? Yes, I'm moving to Barcelona too. You want to share a flat, so it's cheaper,
Nice.
and we share flat without pretty much knowing each other. And it
Yeah.
could have gone horribly, but it
Of
went
course.
well.
Yeah. Sick.
And since that, then Pablo moved to ILM. He started working on ILM, and when there was an open position, he recommended me. So I got to work on ILM. Then I left ILM. I started work. I got an offer to work as a production designer on animation.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to LA. And then I hired Pablo. Like Pablo left
Nice.
ILM, and then I
Nice.
hired Pablo as a freelance, and he was working on that project, and then it's been like that. And then like we get offers together. Like sometimes there's people that actually hires us as a package,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah. Yeah.
want both of us
Sick.
together.
Sick.
So it happens like that. But yeah.
So I guess those contract negotiations might be interesting. Like, do you kind of like have the same contract and like that for sort
Yeah,
of
we
bonuses?
always,
Yeah.
I mean, not always, but we sometimes talk on the back and it's like, hey,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
how much are you charging for this, or like, how are you negotiating this? And normally it's just separated, but we always agree like, hey, we are going to have the same rate and we are going to
Sick.
work the same hours, so we keep it fair for each other,
Sick.
So
That's
yeah.
incredible, man. That's awesome. Um, Regarding just going back a little bit to the kind of art that you enjoy and moving, I guess, away from digital almost and the traditional stuff. You mentioned obviously you used to make clay models. Like, what kind of like mediums did you kind of gravitate towards throughout your journey, like traditionally?
So most of the time I was working on pencil. Like I remember having like having in the ink era. Like I was just working with ink, and then I don't know. I've been switching, but mostly pencil. I was really interested also in just like anatomy drawing. So I was doing like a lot of like model drawing, like live drawing. I was doing a lot of that also in university. Then I started also working on charcoal. I started like taking private lessons just for charcoal painting for a couple of years. And then at university, I started like trying a lot of different things, but mostly oil painting. And then in terms of volume, like sculpture, I try a little bit of marble, but just to touch
Mm.
it to see how it worked, like how was it like working with it. But it was mostly clay. I also did a little bit of forge, so I was working with iron and
Nice.
like stuff like that. But yeah, also just to experiment it for a bit. So, but yeah, it was mostly clay, the rest of the time.
And what is it? about clay that is it like an enjoyment thing, or is it more like a fluency thing for you? Because there's some things that we just are fluent with, and even if you try other things and have curiosity, there's just that one thing that kind of connects with us versus other things. But yeah, what was that? What's your relationship with clay, and why clay?
Well, it's a very easy to manipulate, like material, you know. It's not like marble. Like with marble, first of all, like you need a big space. You need also, it's pretty dirty. It creates a lot of dust. It's heavy. You need like protection on your hands. So it's a big process, right? When clay, it can just be, can be smaller. You just need to make it a little bit wet. You also need to kind of like control the water that you use and everything, and make sure that it doesn't dry and it doesn't crack. So it has a little bit of a process behind also. But I think it's just the fact that it was like pretty easy to manipulate, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, it doesn't really have anything in particular. I think I just connected with it because it made me feel like calm when I was doing it.
Nice.
It was just pretty relaxing, and I kind of like the fact that you can just see things in 3 dimensions, right? And just rotate it and model it with your own hands, or using tools, or, finding details with like actually in something that is physical, that is not in a paper,
Sick.
So, yeah.
And when like, looking back at again the 10th anniversary now, and looking back, what was your workflow 10 years ago to now? Has it changed much?
It changed it more at the beginning, and then just stabilize forever, kind of. Because when I started, like, I didn't know about photobas, so I started like just doing like pure illustration, pure 2D illustration, and then I learned about photobas. And I was always, when I was doing also traditional media, I was very interested in like hyperrealism, just like getting like a photorealistic result on my artwork. So when I found that I could use photobas, like some sort of like collage that I could paint over and get something out of it, then I got like super interested on that, and I started using it a lot. And then I learned about 3D. And as soon as I learned about 3D and about, like controlling the perspective and controlling like camera angles and light and color in a way that it will take me way more time before. As soon as I learned that, then it just like exponentially grew from that. And then it's just been like that. Like mostly nowadays, what I've been doing is just pushing the 3D further to a point that most of my work is like almost like a 90% 3D. And then it just has like a little bit of overpaint and some texture over it, and that's it. So I think that's what has changed, But I'm glad that I went that way, because I've always been more interested in like environments and photorealistic results. So those have been tools that really like push me into something that I enjoy, because I don't really enjoy that much like doing 2D cartoon stuff, or illustration stuff. Not really good at it. So, yeah.
That's one theme that I've noticed, or maybe something that has always been there, but I'm paying more attention to, is professionals, whether it's our industry or other ones, talking about what they like and don't like, specifically when it comes to their craft and their tools, right? And obviously, you just mentioned there, like what you are more connected to and what your ability is versus what you don't have more fun with. But obviously, there's always that stage where you kind of try everything. Was that the case for you? Like, did you try almost all these different things and then you let that settle? And what was that journey like?
Yeah, I think so. I think it happens naturally. I started like trying a little bit of everything, doing characters, doing environments, doing props or VFX and stuff. But I think at some point you just start like going into one direction, and you start like just being comfortable with either one of them or maybe all of them. It depends on the person. For me, it was more about like environments and vehicles. So I was doing a lot of spaceships, and then spaceships into environments. And then, as I said, working on doing like cinematic shots, like keyframes that will like portray a specific moment, and then everything was like getting all together into keyframes of a spaceship inside of an environment where something is happening, right? And that's like the final thing, and that's what I ended enjoying, but for example, characters for me was never like quite a thing. Props, I can do them, but I also don't really get like to do them too much, when I'm working. Sometimes I have to, but yeah, I mean, and it's also fun, but I think it depends on the person, and I get that question a lot when I do portfolio reviews, and some people that is starting ask me like, what should I do? And I always just say like, whatever you're comfortable with. Like, you don't want to work doing something that you don't like. So if you don't like doing props, then just don't show them on your portfolio. Because you might end like getting hired to do props, because someone saw that you're actually good at it, and then you're like, yeah, but I don't enjoy it. It's like, well, then just don't offer it as one of your skills, So that's how I see it. Like there will be people that will also tell you like, no, you actually have to do like a little bit of everything and show that you are, like capable of like doing everything, so they can hire you for whatever. It didn't happen. It didn't happen to me that way. I did what I wanted to do. I've never pushed myself into. I never forced myself into putting something on my portfolio that I didn't want to show.
Interesting.
And they have just hired me for that. So I cannot really give I cannot give like an objective opinion about it, because the way it happened to me was just like that, So
interesting. So you never at one stage tried to put a lot of stuff in, that you always confident or adamant that no, I'm only going to put in what I like?
Yeah. I mean, and that's also one thing that I always say, like when people ask me, like if it was hard for me, as I said at the beginning, like I have the support from my family and everything, but for me, the journey was never painful. I never had to be working and not really wanting to do it, Everything that I've done has been because I liked it and because I wanted to do it, So when I get people like asking me, like, what do I need to get a job? And you see their level and you tell them, like, probably you need to focus on painting like for 10 hours a day during the next 2 years, and they look at you like, oh my god, like, really, do I have to do that? It's like, well, then stop there. Like, if it's not something you're willing to do just for fun, then just don't do it. It has to be, it has to happen naturally. It is not like being a doctor or like being like, if you're an artist, you have to be an artist because you love being an artist. It cannot be something you need to force. It's like, oh, I like movies and I like video games and I want to work on this no matter what, even if I have to push myself. No, if you have to push yourself, you don't really want it that much. You just have to do it, and it doesn't have to feel like you're struggling. You can struggle by checking your own work and wanting to improve it, but you cannot struggle by like sitting down in front of a paper and started painting. You know what I mean? Like, that needs to happen naturally and because you want to do it, I think that's my opinion. But
you nailed that. You said that absolutely perfectly. Like, I could not agree more. Going back to a bit more like on the themes and the artwork that you make, and obviously the steps that you took to get there, what do you find that you obsess the most, and key emphasis on obsess over the most when you're creating something?
What is the thing that I obsess the most?
Yes.
In terms of like an element on my paintings, or
it could be anything. It's the process, the actual image making process, like something that you kind of know that you always, if it's never hitting that kind of note that it needs to hit, you're never satisfied.
For me, I think the aspect that I enjoy the most and that I'm really obsessed about is the composition. It's making it like really sell, like being able to control the viewer through the painting by like hitting certain spots, like being like, oh, like why is this character this color? Why is it posed in that way? Where is he pointing at? Why is this light hitting this wall to create like a line that goes straight away into this object that the character is holding? Like, those are things that I really enjoy digging deeper into, getting something that, that makes sense in that way. So I think that's something I'm really obsessed about. And I love seeing it in movies also. Like, I get really excited when I see it in a movie, and I feel like, oh, that's clever. Like I always talk about this scene in the movie Contact, when the girl is going up the stairs, and we can see the camera facing her, and at some point she reaches the camera and she opens a door, like a door, a door with a mirror, right? And it's actually, the scene, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually like a cage with like the first aid like kit in the toilet. So
Yes.
so and that's so clever. So I always try to reach that level of I don't know,
No,
brightness in my work
you.
somehow.
I get you 1,000,000%.
And sometimes I can't, sorry, but yeah,
no,
and that's the thing, like that's what really makes you like, this could have been better, like,
Yes.
but sometimes you actually make it, and then it's the thing that I feel more proud about, when I get something like that I'm really happy with. But yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Like when we're watching stuff, I'll just say to my wife, again, she's not like into art or anything, but I'll just break. I don't like interrupting people, even I'm getting interrupted when I watch stuff. But when I see some cool composition, like, do you see how they're like framed in the window and what they're talking about, and like all that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
I'll just say she doesn't care one bit. I'm like, yes, you got to recognize that kind of moment. I guess, like, speaking of classics, that Contact one is a great example, because it's not only like composition's not always a static thing, right? Like that's a moving moment, and although it's locked into a static place, like it's almost like a nice camera trick. It is essentially a camera trick, but it works. It's not just a gimmick, but it is a gimmick, and it's all that nice little blend. So whether it's classics or recent things, are there any kind of like shows or films or anything that you saw recently that just again made you go give the chef's kiss to the composition?
Well, I mean, lately I will really have to, sadly, I will have to think about it.
Sure,
I wish it could be just like that. If I go back in time, there are certain movies that I love. My favorite ones, like my favorite movie ever is Jurassic Park. But I always mention The Prince of Egypt as a movie that really takes care of composition, color, and light in that way. Enemy at the Gates is a cool example also for that.
Yeah.
And then movies that are not that far away from now. Any work from Roger Deakins, like Dunkirk or Skyfall, or I don't know, I'm not sure if he did Blade Runner, the last one. I think he did.
2049 he did.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. So that's a very good example also. That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested on. But yeah, I remember like having a talk on an event just about the Prince of Egypt for an hour, analyzing the full movie.
I'm gonna revisit that now. No, it's excellent, and I think it's important to hear that, because there's so many elements, there's so many things what make an image, and even if it's not just the image final result, it's the process that goes behind it, the skill, the training, all that kind of good stuff. But when you can like almost spend an eternity meditating and talking about a specific aspect, for example composition, that's when you know you're onto something good, because you can decode these things in all these different ways and almost see things that no one else can see. But again, there's some that can see it but they can't do nothing with it, and there's some that can see it and then do something with it and almost like weaponize it in a creative way and do all these cool things. You mentioned about composition, when you kind of like you're looking for it and you didn't nail it, and then you look back at it and thinking I could have done it. What is that process like when you see something that almost missed the mark? Do you find that, oh, now I know what I would have done to fix that, or does it become almost like this mystery that you can never solve?
I think, sometimes Like when I'm doing personal work and I have time, sometimes I do it also at work, but normally I don't have the time for that. But every time that I build something on 3D, I just don't do one image. I do more than one,
Yes.
I do a few, and I try to find different things in every shot, because one shot can be more about, let's say we have like a spaceship and some characters and then the background. And there might be a shot that is more about the background. There might be a shot that is more about the spaceship. There's maybe a shot that is about the characters walking around, like doing some stuff. So for me, sometimes the problem is like knowing where to stop, because sometimes I could do like 15 frames, but then it's like, I'm not going to like paint over and do photo vash over like 15 frames. So I need to choose, so every time it's more like a, like a photography session, of a model. It's
Yes.
like you take like 200 images and then you pick
Yes.
from there. So that's my process gets a bit weird in that aspect, because sometimes I don't do like an initial sketch where I figure out the composition, but what I do is that I build the scene and then I just use the camera and see like, okay, what can I find that is interesting, in this scene that I just built without really knowing what's going to be the final composition, you know?
And is it like when you got your iPhone? Like, is it the same kind of like journey? Like when you're trying to just move the camera around and just find that right thing?
Oh, you mean with my phone?
Yeah, so like as you explained, like when you're on
Yeah.
holiday or when you're on vacation, you're moving your phone around trying to find a moment. Is it that same kind of like mechanism that you're doing
Sometimes,
when it's in 3D?
yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is because I maybe arrive to a location and I see that the light condition and the environment itself, you can feel it. Like, oh, I'm gonna be able to take cool pictures in this place,
Yes, yes, yes.
and then you just wander around and try to find. You start like hunting for those moments, right? And when you are in that, when you're in that spree, like in that moment, in that focus moment of like, I know what I'm doing, I know I'm looking for cool compositions, I think you enter into a state where it's easy to make that happen. I'm
Mm.
not sure if I think what inspiration is about, right? It's just being in that mental state that allows you to, let things happen. So when I'm photographing, like when I'm doing photography, it's kind of that shit, kind of like thing, I know that I'm how do you say it? Like, I'm aware that I have things that I cannot control and things that I can control. So
Hmm.
things I can control are the light, because the light is not really going to change in a second,
Yep.
the environment itself, but then there might be also elements that are going to change, like animals or people around,
Hmm.
or whatever it is, or even like weather conditions like wind or whatever. So you need to be ready to know that something can happen. Like if you see a bird, you can more or less understand what's going to happen with the bird. Is it going to start flying? Is it going to
Yes,
just
yes,
move
yes,
to?
yes, yes.
So you need to be ready for those moments to happen, and it's cool to just make everything click in your head at the same time, and it's like dancing somehow, like
Yeah,
knowing,
yeah.
like where it's going to be, like the next step, and like that kind of thing. I don't know. I try to see it that way.
Oh
Yeah.
no, it makes complete sense, and it also sounds like a lot of fun. Not
Hmm.
only in just terms of like the activity of it, but also it also sounds like a bit like a martial art as well. Like you said, like there's so many factors that you kind of either need to be able to control or know how to navigate around or understand, and all these kind of things. You got to be very attuned to it and then just get your moment.
Hmm.
That is super fascinating. Right now, obviously, we're in January. It's the beginning of the year. Um, we saw each other in London last month. It was last month, I think. It feels like forever. But it was last
Yeah.
month, and that was at the end of the year. A quick summary in terms of like how last year went for you, and how do you foresee, what would you like to do for this year?
Uh, well, I don't really know. Like I don't really make plans. Like honestly,
Okay.
for me, last year, job wise, was a bit slower.
Hmm.
In terms of it being like with all of the AI situation and the actor strike that happened before, it was kind of a weird year because I had like this moment where I was not getting like that many job offers and everything. Now I'm having more stability again since the end of last year. So I don't really make plans in a long term. I'm trying to see more like what's going to happen in the next 2 months or 3 months, because being a freelance nowadays, it's a bit like that. I have other things going on that are not job related, in terms of like, family. I just bought a house, so that's on the, on the back, still happening. But in terms of like work or projects or everything, I think 2026 is just going to be a year that I'm just going to try to find some stability in some sort of way. Not sure if that was the question more or less, or if it was going in that.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, essentially, like, totally, it makes sense. And I'm also the same. Like, I always look at the year as a deadline in terms of like, okay, it's a nice way to kind of like turn a page and just kind of assess what you did that previous term, and then see what the page does the next year. But there's no like specific rigid kind of like goals or anything. But at the same time, it's also interesting as well, because different people have like, again, they have like milestones they want to hit, or they have certain things they want to start or achieve, etc., etc., etc. And it's always fascinating to see. But in terms of like, say, for yourself as an artist, whether it's on the professional side or the personal side, are there any things that you would love to look at, whether it's this year or even moving forward down the line, that you would like to maybe unlock, achieve, or try out?
I would like at some point, not sure if it's going to happen this year, sooner or later, but I definitely have been having a couple of ideas for some personal IPs that I would like to develop for a long time, like I have something that has been there on the back of my head for like 10 years, but I never find the way to do it because, sorry, for me, like a project related to our industry, like it will be like doing my own video game or doing my own story or doing an art book or whatever it is. I think it's kind of overwhelming for me because I know it is not just about doing some drawings and thinking that your idea is cool. If I ever do something like that, I want to have a lot of people involved in it, and I want to have like a writer, and I want to have like a director. I want to, let a lot of people, work on it somehow. So for me, a project like that, it's always something that I see that maybe will happen eventually in the long term. I started also just as a game, trying to get an idea to develop a video game with my girlfriend. We just started it as a project between us, just for fun. But we started getting ideas, and we just did like a mirror board, and we're just putting references and trying to answer some questions ourselves. And we're just trying to develop like a pitch that, everything just like imaginary, like all for fun. Sure. It's not like we're actually planning to do it.
Okay.
But if at some point we did, well, we will have it ready, right? So nice. It's a cool exercise somehow. But yeah, apart from that, things I would like to try. I always say I would like to go back to traditional, as I said before, right? But I don't really have the time, because even if I have the time, I use that time for something else, and that something else is just relaxing or whatever, right? And travel more, always traveling. I love traveling, so I have already a few trips already organized for this year again. Nice. Some events, some vacation, but it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be going a lot to Latin America this year, finally, because it's one of the places that I still have to see. So yeah, I think those are like the things I have in my head right now, at least in the short term.
Sick. Well, when we bump into each other, I definitely got to check in with you and see if they've been happening or how that's been progressing.
Hopefully.
I think it's a great time to wrap up, Pablo. It's been incredible, and finally glad we got this done. Any final words or thoughts from yourself to the listeners before we head off?
Well, I mean, just resuming a bit like what we have been talking about, for anyone that is starting on this industry and in this work, just have fun, and enjoy what you do, and don't get like too overwhelmed or trying to, push yourself too much, like further than what is healthy. Always keep yourself as a priority in that aspect, you know. And for those that are already on it, and are working and everything, well, just try to keep the passion, try to keep the motivation, make sure that you also find ways to escape sometimes the stress and the, vortex of like getting involved into work. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Pablo, it's been absolutely incredible. Thanks so much for jumping on.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron. It was a pleasure.
Cheers. A huge thanks to Pablo for that incredible conversation. Hit the links to see what Pablo is up to and to give him a follow. Then head to learnsquared.com and take your artistry to the next level. Remember, all of our first lessons are free. I've been your host, Aaron Danda. Till next time.